Thank you everybody for being here this morning on the second day of the Festival of Indigenous Languages. We're excited to see you. Was anybody here able to tune in to Dr. Lorna Williams' talk yesterday? Oh, good morning from Germany. Hello. All right, yeah, we've got a bunch of folks in here, so maybe we can go ahead and get started. A few housekeeping notes. Thank you all for your patience with the technical issues. Zoom conferences is kind of a new product and we're still figuring it out. Today is going to be largely the same format. We're going to have a talk from an amazing language revitalization person. We're going to encourage you all afterwards to contribute questions and share your own experiences and anything you'd like to say to Maung. And we are going to have an open mic and coffee chat session after Maung's talk, starting at 12 p.m. Pacific. So hope you can join us, come introduce yourself, share a story or a song, a little bit of language. And without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Bibek to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Anna, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Bibek, and I'm from Nepal. In Nepali, it would be Namaste. Mero naam Vivek ho, ra ma mero ghar Nepal ho. I'm really excited to be here, and I have the privilege to introduce Maung Nyeu, who is our speaker today. I came to know Maung only pretty recently when actually Harvard's alumni office or some algorithm they used matched us as a mentor and mentee. So I'm a master's student at Harvard Graduate School of Education, and Maung has been associated with the institution for over a decade now, formerly as a master's and PhD student, and now as an instructor. So I was, in fact, one of the students in one of the classes he co-instructed recently, which actually ended just yesterday. Since I didn't know so much about Maung myself, I asked the co-instructor of the class, Professor Bruno de la Queisa, to share his thoughts about Maung so that I could share with you today. And interestingly, we had a conversation. I had a conversation with him this morning, and it was supposed to be primarily about coursework and how the class was as a student and teacher. But we ended up, out of the 25 minutes, 20 minutes, we ended up talking about Maung and what an amazing person he is. So I'm going to share some of what Professor Bruno de la Queisa, or just Bruno, shared with me about him in just a bit. But I think I would also love to give him give you some background about Maung to help you know about his work. So Dr. Maung Nyeu belongs to the Marma indigenous people of Chittagong Hill Tracts in Bangladesh. He is an indigenous language researcher, academic, and activist. He's the founder and executive director of Our Golden Hour, an organization committed to extending educational opportunities for children in marginalized communities and underserved areas. He's also an award-winning author of children's books and multilingual picture dictionaries. His story was nominated as one of the 50 most inspiring stories by the BBC World Service. And believe me, it's quite inspiring. His research interests includes indigenous languages and literacy, oral storytelling, indigenous knowledge, and ways of knowing, culturally responsive pedagogy, and moral education, and all of that grounded on equity, diversity, belonging, and justice. So on a more personal level, to share what Bruno shared with me, Maung is dedicated. He, towards the mission that he carries towards his community, the Marma people, towards the Marma language, but also towards everything he does and everyone he meets. So I think it's always a pleasure to get the opportunity to work with him. And he is so humble. I think this is something even I experienced in the short time I know him. Given the circumstances he faced, especially as a child, being from an indigenous community that was under a severe military campaign of the state, and being under trauma and displaced, I think what he has achieved, where he has come at this point, the odds were very rare. But if you ask him, and he never shows that, that it was probably his hard work or skill that brought him here. He's always giving credit to all the people that helped him along the way. And I think that shows how humble he is. And I'm sure just his presentation and his demeanor will convince you of that. But finally, he's also very brave. I think despite everything that has happened to him, and despite the efforts that still happens to suppress him and to prevent him from doing the work that he is doing, I think he continues to do the work. So I think we're very lucky to have someone like Maung here and in this world. And especially, I think I'm really looking forward to his talk today. And I think I just want to end with a quote that from Noam Chomsky, who was in fact in our class yesterday. So it goes, case by case, we find that conformity is the easy way and the path to privilege and prestige. Dissidence carries personal costs. And I think Maung has carried that cost so happily and so well, and we're very lucky to have him. Thank you, Maung. Over to you.
Thank you, Bibek. You are very kind, and thank you for this very kind introduction. Much appreciated. And it's a pleasure, it's an honor to meet you and have you in the class and learn with you and from you. So let's say for this talk, I'm going to share a PowerPoint slide. Let me see if I can share it. Please let me know if you can see it.
Yes, I think we can.
Okay, great. I'd like to start with the land acknowledgement. I acknowledge the land on which New York University sits is the traditional and unceded territory of Lenape people of Mannahatta, and where I work, and also a land on which Harvard University sits, where I teach, is the territory of the Wampanoag people, and my own homeland, Chittagong Hill Tracts. It is the territory of Marma and 13 other indigenous communities of past and present generations. And these places have long served as the sites of meeting and exchanging ideas among nations. Okungsu Minglaba, Jew, Shari Kahan, Chibaile, Ayun Maro. Greetings, everyone. What I say to you is the greetings in 5 indigenous languages of Chittagong Hill Tracts. And this place is my home too. Well, not exactly this home up here down in the hill, but this region. And it is very green and mountainous. So where Chittagong Hill Tracts is, it is on the southeastern corner of Bangladesh. We have 14 indigenous communities in the Chittagong Hill Tracts. In Bangladesh, we have more than 54 indigenous communities combined. In the Hill Tracts, it is, for today's talk, I will focus on the Chittagong Hill Tracts, each with distinct languages, population approximately 950,000, and our ethnicity, language, and culture is distinct from the Bengali majority. And these are indigenous women in our traditional dresses, from Marma to Tonchanya to Mro and Chakma and many different groups. And this is a typical family, husband and wife in a bamboo house and with their children. and indigenous women working in the field, Mro people, and plung. Plung is a special kind of flute used by Mro people and this is their traditional dance. And this is a Marma dance. And this is my group, or I belong to this Marma community. Now, what happened to our languages? This is Mro alphabets. And I studied and worked and visited many Mro community villages. I found less than 50 elders. This is 6 years ago. By now, probably less than 30 elders alive today who can read and write Mro language. And this is not just for Mro. This is for many other indigenous communities in the Chittagong Hill Tracts. When I ask our elder, what language means to you? And she says, language is not just for tool for communication. It's a voice through which our ancestors speak with us and through which our children make meaning of the world around us. Now, even though we have less than 50 who can read and write, look at this. This is 1873. One of the British, because at that time it was part of British India, and they went to Chittagong Hill Tracts and found a rich collection of proverbs that used in the hill. And these are written in indigenous languages as well as English. Now, at that time, there are many people who could write in indigenous languages. So why and how it led to only less than 50 today? To understand this, maybe we take a little tour in the history. And as for today, I will focus on 3 main themes. And the first one is colonial empires, nation states, and language endangerment. So this is after British took over India, and they decided to put an English Education Act. And the architect of this English Education Act is Thomas Macaulay. And he wrote, I never found one among them, meaning Indian subcontinent, who could deny that a single shelf of a good European library was worth the whole native literature of India and Arabia. That means India as well as entire Middle East. All the knowledge, all this encoded in the indigenous and languages are not even same as worth single shelf of a library in London. This is the view. And then he said, we ought to deploy, and this is the head of the British in the British India, William Bentinck. And he said, we ought to employ them in teaching what is best worth knowing. That English is better worth knowing than Sanskrit or Arabic. And to this end, our efforts ought to be directed. So we must at present do our best to form a class of persons, Indian in blood and color, and English in taste, and opinion in morals and in intellect. In other words, what they want the Indian to be like coconut. It's a brown outside, but it's a very white inside. Or in the context of people in the Chittagong Hill Tracts or Northeast India, who are more of a Mongoloid, to be like bananas, yellow outside, but very white inside, in thoughts, in opinions, in taste, and in morals, and in intellect. So that's why the English Education Act started in British India. Now, British left in 1947, you have Pakistan and you have India. So Pakistan at the time, the green part, which is the Muslim majority part, and then the rest is India. But Pakistan got two pieces, West Pakistan and East Pakistan. And so what would be the language policy in Pakistan? Urdu and only Urdu will be the national language of Pakistan. This is the founder of Pakistan. Anyone who tries to mislead you is really the enemy of Pakistan. But Urdu is very different from Bangla, which is spoken in the East Pakistan. And here's the West Pakistan. And you can see the language map. Urdu is spoken only by a small percentage. The vast majority speak other languages. In East Pakistan, it is not only Bangla, there are many other languages spoken, indigenous languages. So in 1947, Bangla was spoken by 54%, but Urdu was spoken by only 3.5% of the population. So the question is, why did Pakistan declare Urdu as the only national language, despite Urdu was the mother tongue of 3.51 population, right? The way they justify it, Pakistan is a Muslim state. It must have its lingua franca, the language of the Muslim nation. This is the Liaquat Ali Khan, Prime Minister. Not to mention it is the language of the military and elite. On the other hand, on the East Pakistan side, this Urdu or Hindi instead of Bangla is used in our law court and universities would be the tantamount to political slavery. This is a linguist and a professor. So what happened? People in the East Pakistan went to street and protest, and 5 young men were shot dead. Pakistan recognizes Bangla as the second official language in 1956, but it is too late. The Bengalis started galvanizing, coming together and fighting for their language and also for their independence. And that led to the creation of Bangladesh in 1971. So my friend tells me, who is from Pakistan, is Pakistan was created on the basis of religion. And Bangladesh was created on the basis of language. At least that's how it started, language movement. So every year, 21st February in Bangladesh, Mother Language Day celebrated with much fanfare. And Bangladesh probably is the only country where in every city, every small towns, every schools, colleges, you will find this shape, which is called Language Martyr Monument. And in 1999, UNESCO declared 21st February is the International Mother Language Day. But let's see, if Bangladesh values so much about mother language, mother tongue, what is the language policy in Bangladesh? So the founder of Bangladesh said Bangla is the national language of Bangladesh. It's only one language. You remember Urdu was the only national language, which led to the independence of Bangladesh. But Bangladesh is, as you have seen before, has a number, 54 different groups at least, and many languages from different linguistic roots. Why? Because the Chittagong Hill Tracts sits at the intersection of South Asia and Southeastern Asia. So we have Sino-Tibetan language, which is majority of the indigenous languages of Chittagong Hill Tracts, but also in Bangladesh, there are Indo-European, Austro-Asiatic, and Dravidian languages. So this is Bangla on the left, is Chakma, which is one of the indigenous languages on the right. Nationalism and language in Constitution. So when Bangladesh created the constitution after the independence, it says that the unity and solidarity of the nation, which deriving its identity from its language and culture, and that's the key point, is the deriving the identity from its language and culture, shall be the basis of Bengali nationalism. So that brings me to this dominant language in the context of Bangladesh, but also in many parts of the world, or monolingual habitus. Habitus is a word used by French philosopher Bourdieu, and it talks about mindset. It talks about behavior based on the doxa and indigenous languages. So this is in Bangladesh. You can see this on 21st February celebration of Mother Language Day. Despite there are 54 other indigenous communities, this text and every alphabet you can see here showing this is in Bangla. And it is only Bangla. And here is displaying these Bangla alphabets. So celebration of Mother Language Day, this is Mayer Bhasha in Bangla, which means mother tongue, which only celebrates one language. But in Bangladesh, among the indigenous peoples, we have the Chakma language, Marma language, or Kokborok, and many more. In a way, Mother Language Day celebration is the celebration of Bangla language only day. And Bangla language only day is not the Mother Language Day. Not the same thing. So when this is the role of nation states played so much in this imposing dominant language on the rest of the majority, on the rest of the minority or the countries. Our languages make us human. We humans have been using language for millennia. The nation states, vast majority of them, were created in the last 100 to 150 years. So our languages make us human, express our spirits, our views, our songs, our dances, and the way child learn from their parents and pass down these stories through the generations is through our languages, not the colonial empire or nation states. In fact, the colonial empire or nation states accelerated the extinction of languages. So what is the education policy in the Chittagong Hill Tracts? Well, it's a single language policy. It's a rigid centralized curriculum and lack of cultural relevance of content to the life of the children. And one of the outcome of such monolingual policies is that children drop out in high number. So this is Maung Nyeu, enroll in the Shishu primary school, but left within 2 years. In school, we have to read in Bangla language. I struggle a lot to understand the Bangla text. And hundreds of children drop out in the primary grades. Not only that, Bangladesh doesn't recognize officially the existence of indigenous language. Government position is Bangladesh doesn't have any indigenous population. And there are implications to it, and I'll be happy to discuss in the Q&A. So my second idea that I want to share is monolingualism is the tip of the iceberg. So you can see what the national education policy is, monolingualism. Sometimes we may think, okay, this is just for the language. we need to ask the question, is it really about the language? Because when a dominant group imposes single language policy, knowing that despite there are large number of populations in the country who speak other languages, there may be other things. So here is if we go back to the history here, 1948, Urdu was the national language. And then 1952, 21st February, these people were shot, 5 young men. And 1971, which was the massacres and killing by the Pakistan army. 1972, Bangla is the national language, and Chittagong Hill Tracts was militarized in 1977. And there are attacks on indigenous people, and many of them fled and became refugees in India throughout the 80s and 90s. So when we see a monolingual policy, it is not just about the language, but shows as a language. Under the iceberg, it is just tip of it. What we see there could be that we need to ask, are there discrimination? Are there racial or ethnic superiority, contempt, hatred, subjugation, assimilation, or domination? And I also like to add is the epistemic monolingualism is a form of oppression. So when we see monolingual policy, it's a canary in the coal mine. We ought not to be sleepwalkers and shake ourselves into the mode of awakening. And the third idea I want to share is how do we create hope and sustain hope in bleak times? And Bibek mentioned about Noam Chomsky. I met him when he was at MIT in Cambridge. And he gave me some good advice. And I was benefited from his advice on the language revitalization. And as Bibek said, he was guest speaker in the course that I was co-teaching yesterday. So we have schools in the Chittagong Hill Tracts where we work with these children. And also we created just an oral storytelling project where children interview their grandmothers for stories. And these are not just the grandchildren of this grandmother. This is the children from the whole village come and listen to the stories from their grandmother. And here is an example. So grandmothers, she is telling a story through poetic verses, and she can sing like this for hours, of course, with some breaks. And this is a rich oral story tradition passed down across many generations, now on the brink of extinction. So what I also found is that people like her gives us hope, because what I find in these grandmothers and village elders, no matter how pervasive the oppression is, it tends not completely suffocate love, tenderness for children, compassion for community, help for the vulnerable, and struggle for justice. So these children, we ask them to come to the classroom and share the story, what they have heard. On the left, this boy is shy, so I asked the teacher to stand next to him and give him encouragement. On the right-hand side, this fourth grader is fired up, ready to go. You can see that she is very excited about this. And then so they tell these stories with impromptu delight of their classmates. And here teachers also help to lift some of the values from the story, moral and ethical values. And these are students in secondary grades. So here is an example. So she told the story for 15 minutes, but for the sake of time, I cut it short. And I think that you can see that how much delight and excitement among her classmates. And but here I'm going to show you where some of the challenges that these children face. Please watch the text. এখন বাংলায় বলতে পারবা? বাংলায় বলবা? ঠিক হ্যাঁ? একটু বলো। নামি যা পড়া কি মেরাম? উমানু আচ্ছা। ওকে। ওকে। বাংলারা প্রবণ হলো? বাংলারা প্রবণ হয় মো? কি বানাই মো? অল্প বলো। অল্প বলো। পিছে প্রবণ হয়। নয় মো। So I share this because in our education system, we give a student whether to pass or fail based on what they can write in the exam paper. And in Bangladesh, because it's single language policy, they have to write it in Bangla. The idea is that what she can write is a reflection of what she knows, her knowledge. But here you can plainly see she knows the story very well. She told the story for 17 minutes, but she cannot say it in Bangla. And because of her not having the opportunity to learn in their mother tongue and gradually introducing Bangla side by side, students like her know so much and still face difficulty in school, and a good number of them will drop out. So what we do then? So we documented their oral storytelling. We video record. And then with the help of a global team of illustrators and authors, we publish a multilingual children's book that includes indigenous languages as well as Bangla and English. So here they can see it is called Gift of Water. It is based on one of the Marma tradition of Ripungjang. That means that, offering water to thirsty travelers. And so here the children can see their community is represented. Their homes are represented. Their grandparents are represented. In a normal textbook, the children hardly ever see their communities in the textbook. So representation matters. Princess Monori is another popular story, and you can see that it is also in indigenous languages. So, and then we also created picture dictionaries, and we created picture dictionary in 6 languages. So you can see 4 indigenous languages and Bangla and then English. So here is also, because it is created for children, so we had the pictures illustrated with the things or materials they can see around their lives in the villages, and in the community. So on the left-hand side, it's the regular textbook in Bangla. what it does is what Gorlin calls that it creates monolingual habitus. But the world is not monolingual. The world is multilingual, the one on the right-hand side, which is Carol Benson of Teachers College in Columbia calls multilingual habitus. So the question is, if we keep putting all in just one language, it creates monolingual habitus. Putting in multilingual text, even though one child may not understand all other languages, but it creates the awareness is that other languages not only exist, but they're valued. And we had to digitize our font, and our children started learning to write in their mother tongue in school. So here is a little girl, she is a first grader, and she writes her name on the wall, on the board. And then I asked her name, so she wrote, and then she asked me if I can write my name. I said, no, I don't know how to write my name in my mother tongue. She says, okay. The teacher told her, is that, why don't you write Maung's name on the board? And this first grader wrote my name on the board. I learned from her how to write my name. So this is another boy. He is writing all the numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 33, 34, all the way. So the proud teacher is looking at. So here is an example.
Eh, bro. Eh, Rui. Dega kamari de. Eh, 저기 the bro. Now,
so you can see that these first graders are learning to read, or learning to write. But here is another more interesting one. This girl not only learned how to read and write the alphabets, now she's teaching others who is barely 1 year, probably younger than her. As I call her our future teacher. So they're learning in mother tongue. And also with that, we design curriculum for schools. And we collected many stories. And these are the 16 multilingual storybooks we published at that time. And since then, we publish more. So they discuss these stories in the classroom. This is 3rd grade on the left. This is probably 7th grade on the right. And these are also 3rd graders. They are discussing these stories in a group. Some of them even are role playing because they are so excited about the stories. So they role play and they discuss among their group and then share their findings. I won't bore you details with the academic finding, which is kind of a research work, but it is that there is a very good academic outcome, help to reduce the gap. Student writing has improved. Students show high engagement, and also moral and ethical lessons. They have learned a lot more. So I will come back to this if I have questions or time, is how the moral and ethical values are being shown here. So, and these storybooks also help to preserve, learn students that knowledge they pass down for generations, how to preserve our cultures, but also our environments. And this is story, it is not a fish. In the Chittagong Hill Tracts, we don't kill dolphins, but here is our big fish like that. So this is a story, why we don't kill dolphins or we don't hurt them. Knowledge passed down through a generation. Medicinal plants. So this is a medicinal plant, Tankuni. It is also called Centralia asiatica. And this knowledge, this is a story of how magical power this leaf has. My grandma used to tell this story. So in the Chittagong Hill Tracts, we have many medicinal plants, and this knowledge is stored in the indigenous languages. And also, so what works we have found is that it elevates social status of indigenous languages. So this is a ceremony of a death anniversary of a revered Buddhist monk, but that's not what I am trying to show you. What I'm trying to show you is that you see in the social events, they started using indigenous languages, which was not there even say 10, 12 years ago. This is a Indigenous Hill Film Festival. And this is just last year, several months ago. You can see several indigenous languages. This film festival is written. That means that socially now people are using more and more different indigenous languages. This comes from the other side of border in India, in the state of Tripura. The adult Marmas, they are learning how to read and write in Marma. So you get the idea. When people go to protest, you can see the banner. That's also in indigenous languages. And this is a student newsletter that's in indigenous languages. So UN Declaration of Right of Indigenous People. But what does it do good to indigenous people if indigenous people cannot read it? So we translated it into Mro. And also here is the poem in Chakma script and Mro script. This poem says, these are our words, shaped by our hands, our tools, our history. Lose them, and we lose ourselves. So in the language revitalization, I found there are three groups of people. Some people say it is inevitable. Too bad they're vanishing. We cannot do anything. And these are like government officials, education policymakers, or large international NGOs with economy focus. There are other groups of people who say, let's preserve it. They record the videos and text, and they put it in the museum and library. And then there's the third group who believe in revitalization, elevating social status, using it in school, incorporating in daily use. You probably know by now which group I belong to. Sometime in Bangladesh, and also I have heard it in many other parts of the world. Is it not advantageous if we all use one language? I say, of course. There are many advantages, economic, printing, and many other things. If we all just use one language, I fully agree with you. Why don't we start using Mro from tomorrow? The children's storybook, we have a global reach. People translate it into Korean, in Portuguese, in German and French, in Brazilian Portuguese, in Italian, and also children in many countries, they use these storybooks to color. And this excitement of this little girl, really amazing. So, and our books receive awards. And this is the Harvard commencement where I graduated. So where this, during the commencement, the medical school students show their stethoscope, the Kennedy School government shows the globe. For the graduate school of education, they use book. And these are the book. This is how they use book. So when I showed this picture to our children in the Chittagong Hill Tracts, they laughed and laughed and laughed. They could not figure out why adults wearing strange red, black robes are so excited about these books as they are. Okay, finally a change. So after many years, government made a change of policy and language of instruction in Bangladesh for K-3 only. So publish indigenous language book. And that gives hope. My grandson, Indro Chakma, can now not only speak Chakma at home with his family, but he can write it too. This makes me happy. Same thing for teachers. Jonaki Tripura, she says, this makes me hopeful about the future. Few lessons learned. We cannot wait for the government to revitalize our endangered indigenous languages. This is one of the core messages I want to share with you today. It is that if you wait for the government to solve this, it will take forever. So one of the ways to do this is to have community-based. And proximity matters. You cannot do it from distance. We need to engage community, parents, and indigenous elders. Start with children. That's the advice Chomsky gave me. Teacher professional development. If you just start with the children, but the teachers are not developed professionally, they will not be able to help. Curriculum relevant to the lives of students. And also there are some early adopters, you go with them. So we know the language and culture are mutually influence each other, and both of them influence our individual identity and social identity. But many researchers stop right here. But I say this diagram of language, culture, and identity is almost meaningless if we don't include the conversation about power differential. So how we do this if we don't rely on the government? What gives me hope is that we have international collaboration with indigenous communities. So from the Chittagong Hill Tracts, we have communicated with people in Assam, in India. One is the Masha Scholar League, and also there are other groups in Mizoram, and also other groups in the Chin state that we are working very closely. This is an example. The Maori people of New Zealand goes to Japan and help with the Ainu people for their language revitalization effort. So there is a global collaboration going on. This particular conference, ELP, is such an avenue. So the government and local community often in contradiction or context, but that's where the local and international NGOs like ELP come in and help to bridge the gap. Just one or two things I would say before I stop. So do languages die away? I see even the linguists, they use the word die, languages die, dying words. We need to question this narrative because languages are not biological entities like my human body that I will die away someday. Languages do not die. Every language is an old growth forest of the mind, a watershed, a thought, an ecosystem of spiritual possibilities. Wade Davis, professor at Vancouver, BC. So what I say is that language is more like a culture that evolves, but it doesn't die like a human body. Challenge the narrative of cultural Darwinism, survival of the fittest among languages. We need to challenge that. And so what I say is that languages do not die away. Languages are driven to extinction by identifiable forces. This is not a pessimistic view. This is an optimistic view. That means that if language can be driven to extinction by identifiable forces, by human, that means that human can be and should play a role in revival of languages. So some people say in Bangladesh, you're doing Hmong, you're doing good job for your community. I say you're missing half of the point. Revitalization of indigenous languages are not only good for my community, languages are asset to our entire humanity. Okay, so I am towards the end. It is just some of the schools, our children, And so when I'm not doing my research, I go to places and I do storytelling session with children. These are the kindergartens, and their curiosity and wonder in their faces make everything worthwhile. We also develop songs and dance for the children. Let me see. So I do this work not because they are from Chittagong Hill Tracts. Yes, they are. Not even because they are indigenous. Yes, they are. But they are children, like children from all over the world. They deserve our love and affection, an opportunity to dance and sing in the languages they feel most at home. So with that, I say in my language and the way our children say, thank you, Amyaji Keju Themba. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you so much, Maung. Bibek, if you'd like to moderate questions from the audience, if anyone has questions or comments for Maung, please chime in.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Yeah, please feel free to type your questions in the Q&A part or in the chat. I can monitor both, but I think the Q&A is the official question place.
I see a question. I think it is about from, I could not pronounce the exact name, but just Sophia Hivsegi. So she is asking, or he asking, thank you for this informative presentation. Could you please elaborate on the family language management and language attitude of child raising generation in the Marma community? This is a very good question. The attitude, right? Every parent all over the world wants the best for their children. What happened is that they're feeding the myth from the government and from other entities is that a child can learn only one language well at a time. If you give them other languages, they cannot learn well. This is further from the truth. Over 60 years of research in language shows a child can easily learn more than one language, 2, 3 languages very well. Academic research shows that you start with the first language. A child learns best when you start with the languages they speak at home and you gradually introduce the second language. So the parental attitude, they want best for their children, but sometimes the myths are often told them many, many times and they internalize it. So we have to work for improving the attitude, yes.
There is a question in chat, if you'd like to address, Maung.
Please.
From Sylvia Bledo. She says, thank you. This was really inspiring for all languages. And she asks, did you ever meet up with resistance against your efforts?
Well, what I did not mention is that, there's elephant in the room. So the Chittagong Hill Tracts, even to this day, is militarized. And what it means that there's a restriction of foreigners to come in. So many of my colleagues and friends here at Harvard and also at NYU, they want to go to Chittagong Hill Tracts and work with the children. But when they face such barriers, they cannot go in and help train the teachers and work with the community member. So that is one of the challenge. I think that it also restricts the movement, like which school I can go to, how many times I can visit, because all of these efforts possible because we focus on the teacher professional development. So sometimes these are some of the challenges that we face.
There's another question from DM who is asking, how did you start from scratch? That includes project funding.
Very good question. So I had, I started with the limited funding, and I was, as a community members, they are also very much interested. So just collecting the stories, have a video camera and taking this one. When it comes to publications, I had organizing event at Harvard campus and also in several other places. And this helped to raise initial funding. And then after we published some books, we sold the books all over the world. And also we received more funding from other organizations.
We also have a question from Twitter, it seems like. I think they're asking, what are the best examples of oral storytelling festivals for language revitalizations you have encountered? Though both drama and dictionary approaches help, I'm inclined to think there are merits in enhancing oral and oral dramatic ways. How can these be replicated and fostered?
So very good question. And first, I would like to say that there is no one size fits all. And different languages have different challenges they face. So some languages have more than 100,000 speakers. Some languages have only 2,000 speakers. That makes a big difference. The other part is that some languages has a script historically that you have the script, and some languages primarily oral. And there are one language, which is the Kokborok, which is the Tripura language, that used to have a script. Now they don't know how to read and write in that script. However, now they use either Bangla alphabets or English alphabets to write that language. So there is no one single answer to that question. It is that it depends on the condition. Is it oral only? Is there a script? The number of populations and all plays a difference. One thing is that when we think of oral story, the stories are highly engaging. Think of one of the childhood memories when we were growing up. One of the fondest memory I have when my mom said, we're gonna visit your grandma. And I was so happy jumping, because I knew that my grandma will not only just give me tasty food, but she's going to tell me a story one night after one night. So stories pass down for generation after generations. And stories, they are very good for student engagement. But what is the value of engagement if there is no good curriculum or learning piece behind it? And that's where it comes, the use of the books or the way that we have used it. It could be some other ways too. And the dictionary, for example, we could have just dictionary, plain word, Marma word and Bangla word and English word. Because it is for children, we decided to make it picture dictionaries, right? So the dictionaries are good for learning the vocabulary. Now, oral stories help to develop oral comprehension. And many studies have shown that developing oral comprehension contributes to better vocabulary development and later writing in their lives, as they go through the schools. So they are connected. Orals are very good start. If you have that approach, take it, and it's good for student engagement. And also it is because learning is not only challenge of the head. Sometimes we make the mistake. Learning is the challenge to the head and to the heart. If you get children emotionally engaged with the content, the actually teaching part becomes so much easier. So that's where the role of stories come in. So thank you, very good question.
Yeah, no, people really loved your presentation. There's several comments of, I love this, thank you, you give me hope, and others. So that is awesome to hear. I think we have a question from Jonathan, who is asking, some people think that government support revitalization is impossible. What do you think about that idea?
I think government support is good to have if you get it. So what I was saying that because government has the funding to support, to scale it up. But the challenge is that if you don't have the government support, then how do you start? And so that's why I say, let's not wait for the government to solve our problem. Let's start based on what we know and the communities who are interested in, and start with the early adopters. Now, in the context of Bangladesh, what happened is that there are several NGOs. We just only one. There are other NGOs also work for the both in the southern side, which is called Bandarban Hill Tracts, on the northern side, which is called Khagrachari Hill Tracts and the Rangamati Hill Tracts. So these are two hill districts. There are multiple NGOs are working for indigenous language revitalization. None of them are receiving government funding. So once they develop, and in my case, we not only develop, we have used the evidence to show that children who start in the mother tongue, they stay in school, they don't drop out. And when we share this with the government, multiple years of evidence, and then government changed the policy only for K-3, not good enough. We need to go for more. But at least government said, okay, we are going to allow indigenous language-based schooling only for 3 languages, not 14 languages, only for 3 languages and K-3 grade. So that's what we are today. So I think that we need to start, don't wait for the government. And once you need to collect the evidence and show that it really helps to create more speakers and the children are learning, and the government may come in or may not come in. But what also I would say is that instead of waiting for the government, the international community, the Ainus or the Maoris and the Assam's Dimasal League, and also many others who are going to collaborate with each other. In fact, this forum, ELP, has done such an amazing work in bringing people from around the world. So we don't wait for the government. We learn from each other in this community, and this technology allows it. If it was 200 years ago, we suffer in isolation. But today in 2022, we don't have to suffer in isolation. We can be supporting and learning from each other.
Yeah, exactly. We have another question from Jasmine, who is asking, do you have any experience with motivating people to want to learn their own language when they have used English their entire lives? And it seems like she followed up with saying, I work with teenagers and it is a struggle.
I have to know more about the context, like which country, which community. I go back to this engagement. Different ages of children and people have different ways of motivation and engagement work. So Noam Chomsky told me to start with the children. And so that's why I designed curriculum and textbook from kindergarten, grade 1 and grade 2 and so forth. And Noam Chomsky said this because Noam Chomsky's father, when Israel was founded in 1947 or 48, most of the people who came to Israel, the Jewish people from around the world, they did not have Hebrew as the language that they can communicate. Very few people knew Hebrew. Those who are religious, like reading from Torah, they knew Hebrew. And Noam Chomsky's father was given the responsibility to design curriculum so that Hebrew is in this country. So for the children, so his father started with the children, And of course, now today, if you go to Israel, everybody who goes to school know how to read and write in Hebrew. Now, for the teenagers, what engages teenagers? Look, we all have been teenagers at some point of our lives. Some of them few years ago, some of them many more years ago. So you think of what really excited you when you were a teenager. For example, I have seen they like songs, they like social events, they also like social media. So we have some kind of music competition, some kind of dance competition in the local language. And so it is the way you have to see where the students or people are, what motivates them, and meet them there.
Yeah, we have maybe a little technical question, which I don't understand fully, but I'm sure you will. Just want to clarify, did you start with Bayesian trilogy or with assessing the linguistic vitality in the community? And this is from DM again.
Not really, but I didn't start with Bayesian, but I think that from the linguistic vitality wise, we have a different level of language vitality of different languages. For Marma, my first language, I could speak Marma, but I have seen that as time goes by, many of them are losing Marma words and replacing with more Bangla words. And if we go on like this for one more generation, probably they won't know much Marma anyway. So I think that this is the place where we thought that, okay, there is certain number of population still speak Marma fluently. These grandparents, they sing in poetic verses, but guess what? This generation after these grandparents, they don't sing like her anymore. And these are generations that pass down for so many years. But in a period of when British left and Pakistan started, our schooling system have Urdu or Bangla. One thing that British Empire did is that they wanted to make sure that they want the maximum profit with minimum cost. And the way they did it is they created a proxy class who knew English. And so they did not put English in every villages. So in the Chittagong Hill Tracts, our community continued to use Marma language in reading and writing. So it did not get threatened until 1947. So we knew that we have this small window of time now. Those who are 70, 80 years old, once they die away, we cannot have them. So we then make use of their help. And also you saw this in the video, the Buddhist monk was teaching. Why Buddhist monk was teaching? Because like Torah, religious chanting, if you don't want to be Buddhist monk, you have to know how to chant in social functions, give the blessings. And this chanting is often written down in Marma language. So even though it's Pali words, but it's written down in Marma language. So that's why the Buddhist monks, majority of them know the Marma language writing and reading. So we use their help for the professional development. Yeah.
I think those are all the questions we have so far. I don't know how much time we have, but I think Anna will be able to enlighten us.
Yeah, we technically are about 14 minutes over time, but this is a fairly informal gathering. So if anybody has anything else for Maung, please feel free to chime in. But I just want to say, Maung, that it has been such a pleasure and a privilege, as always, to listen to you talk and share your knowledge and your insights. I know that I am going back to work more encouraged and enthused for this work. So thank you. Listening to you always puts a fire inside people.
It is an honor and pleasure from my side too. And every time I think of the ELP, I recommended ELP to many of my colleagues in different countries, Taiwan, in Japan, as well as in Northeast India, and also in Myanmar, Philippines, so that they know that there is a platform where people from many parts of the world who are interested in language revitalization can come together, share knowledge, learn from, and this only will keep growing bigger and bigger communities. So these kind of organizations give me hope. And I think, thank you so much to Anna and also all the people in ELP to create a platform and create a space for us to share and learn from each other. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Maung, and thank you, Bibek, for being such a wonderful host for this talk. Thank you, everyone who was able to be here with us today and for your wonderful supportive comments in the chat and your insightful questions. It's been a real pleasure to be here with all of you this morning or evening. And I think we'll close it here and let Maung go about his day. But just a reminder to everyone, we have another coffee chat and open mic session. So if you would like to gather informally with other language revitalization folks around the world, maybe share a song, share a brief story or poem, tell us about your own languages and communities, that will be starting in about 3 hours at 12:30 Pacific. So hope you can join us. And thanks again to Maung. We'll have a round of virtual applause. Yay. Thank you so much. All right, thank you, everyone. See you soon. Have a really wonderful rest of your day.
Okay, have a good one. Bye.
Bye, everyone.